Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another How to Succeed podcast. I'm your host, Mike Montague, Director of Community Engagement at Sandler. And my guest this week is Tom Albert, founder and CEO of Measured Risk. They have AI insights for supply chain risk, but we're going to be specifically talking about how to succeed through inspiring others to achieve their dreams and actions. I think it's a very relevant topic today when you have to work through other people, and no matter what your role is. So the following podcast is copyrighted by Sandler Systems, Inc. and protected by U.S. copyright laws. Sandler is the worldwide leader in sales, management, and customer service training. You can find more information at sandler.com. Don't forget to hit subscribe or share this podcast with someone that you think needs to hear it. We're going to talk about how to succeed at inspiring others to achieve their dreams. All right, Tom, let's talk about it. You work in supply chain, and I feel like there's a ton that we could learn, but a ton that salespeople could learn. When you look at the measured risk in supply chains of how resilient is your pipeline, how full is your pipeline, how clean is your pipeline, how long are these relationships going to last you, and the life cycle of that, all of that to me seems extremely relevant to a sales pipeline as well. Or specifically, I think in channel selling, that when you have to sell through other people, or if you're in supply chain, you have to find success through other people delivering throughout this chain. And then in leadership, really that's the whole job, is doing it through other people, right? So any opening thoughts here on how we succeed at inspiring others?
Well, it's interesting to me. Thanks for having me on, Mike. I'm excited to spend the time with you, and I appreciate everybody that's listening in. You mentioned something there. I think about it. I have a kind of a background where I work. I've always worked in commercial, public, and private sectors. And a lot of the people, like, look at my notepad right here. It's like that. And a lot of the people that I work with, that's really central to, from a missional perspective of how they execute a vision. And you can get down into special forces, you can get into different areas. And I work with all these guys. And the reality of it is, like, you can't do this alone. Team is foundational to, and I don't just mean be team by word. I mean team by, how do I put it? The belief in each other, people, where you're in the foxhole, or you're on the hill, and you're going to go downrange. You're going to go focus on that area. You're going to focus on that area. You cover off, and you come in the middle. You say, hey, I brought back an elephant. But the thing is you go through that from a business cycling perspective and a modeling perspective, strategic visioning for a company and how to actually execute on a quarterly objective. You have to do inspection of a business at a granular level, and there's a set of truths to it. And the best way, actually, that I've found in my career to really understand the set of truths is we all have something in our own head that tells us whether a forecast is real or not, whether we can actually execute it, whether we believe that the person beside us, that we were responsible for executing it, all those pieces of it, right? But the way I've found to really kind of get success at that is to get other eyes on the deal, because then you get ideas. If you actually trust others, see, there's a thing called, are you familiar with something called the speed of trust? And what that is, it's a military term, but the speed of trust, I think it was Mattis that said it originally, I believe. But basically what you're trying to do is create more velocity with potential in a period of time. And the way you're trying to do that is like facilitate a room where, you got kind of a brain trust of thinking and open-mindedness. You have to be open-minded to be able to be successful at these things. You can't be linear. Yes, you can be passionate and linear and, very objective about going down a certain path about a deal or an opportunity or so on and so forth. But you also have to think about, could that deal be bigger? What if we did this? What if we talk to these people? Is there an interest there? Right. Hold on a second. Is there a win in a partner over here that they may not have actually had? Can you grow their top line revenue? Sit down with the CEO of that company and ask them what their mission is and their objective, and understand if they're trying to grow the CAGR, what's it look like, at what scale, what velocity, what do they need? And then think like a systems integrator minded person, where you integrate capabilities and capacities to be able to bring explosive value to the organization, lay out the business model and say, let's go. let's run it, right? And that's my background. I did a lot of direct selling in my life, but then I started to realize the value of the channel early days, and started working with. I ran sell to sell through for Cisco on the national security piece of business. I ran national security for Cisco over a decade ago. So I'm 48, and I was probably 35 or so at the time. And what I learned is I was selling to these integrators, and at the same time I was selling through them. And when you're inspecting business like that, and you're starting to look at the whole ecosystem, how do you grow it? How do you share value? You have to think non-linearly. You have to have a differentiated thinking style as about how you approach that, right? Because there's a lot of complexity.
I want to ask you more about that. I want to interrupt your thought there, but I think you where I was going, which is I love you brought up the word trust. And I think the more you have to inspect every bit of your pipeline or in every bit of the relationship, the slower it's going to move, right? I like that speed of trust analogy. But at the same time, there are a lot of risks and moving parts here. What's the ideal attitude for a leader or just somebody, like you said, in this channel position where I want to make sure that everything's solid and I'm, everybody's happy. We're creating wins across this whole thing, but I also don't want to micromanage it so much to the point that they feel like I don't trust them or I'm running their business, right?
See, the micromanagement piece, I was trained in how to do that. And it was my least favorite aspect of things, just so you know. Like I literally was. I went to college for art. And take an artist and then make him a micromanager in sales. And at some point he's going to be like, oh God, I don't want to do this. Right. So for me, but I had to learn the trade craft of how to inspect a business. In other words, like, okay, well, when's the last time you had a discussion, a conversation with this person? So we know whether there's predictability into it. And when you look at like a Cisco forecasting side, between 90 and 110% was acceptable. So of an end state, meaning if you came under it or over it, you didn't know your business. Now, if you're an elephant hunter, that's, if you go back to what was the archetype book of all the different archetypes of sales people, right?
Yeah, we do that. Rabbits, deer, elephants.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff. So I've worked with all of them and been, you find yourself in like the area where you kind of fit into that, but the lone wolf, or the like elephant hunter or that kind of thinking, right? But you archetype yourself, and you're also archetyping your team, and so when I look at like the background, the pattern matching of that, what I'd say is the glue is an open mind. In other words, mental agility or flexibility. Attitude is altitude type of thinking. And basically, I've got this little secret interest that, I don't share with a lot of people, but I'll share here is I've been working with advanced human performance people for many years in multiple disciplines that extend. So look adjacent to what you do as for a living, and then look at these other people in these professions that do these crazy levels of skills, right? And you get into the psychology of them and you start to learn about how they do what they do and those types of things. And it's really interesting because there's so many lessons to be learned that you can't do it alone, and you have to have an open mind. And yes, we can hunt elephants and we can make a lot of stuff happen together, but let's make sure that we make it a win for everybody. In other words, let's create a win around the table. A lot of people don't think that that's how the world works, but they're wrong.
Yeah.
It's create the win for the room. And because a lot of times it's just a dot connection. They may not see it. You literally can connect dots, create opportunity. And the other thing is it's inspirational, right? Because energy, people feed off of positivity and people feed off of a belief in each other. Actually, we're all humans, dude. We're neighbors, right? So the more we think like that, the more we just take away our job title and our role. And we just basically look at a bunch of people trying to achieve a certain set of things together. Then all of a sudden it becomes really crystal clear as to how that is possible. And what and even if you're the person that sets the room or gets on the whiteboard, or you're the person that brings the tea, whatever it is, you are a part of that process, and it's important. We all play our own to our own capacities and strengths, but be curious. Curiosity is what makes it fun, right? Because when you're curious, then you're naturally going to try to find solutions, and people are going to see that. And when they see that, they know that you're not just in it for cash, and that matters.
Yeah, two things that I want to share there. One is I think the common mistake is the short-sightedness, right? Trying to make sure you don't get taken advantage of, trying to win this one deal rather than the war, or trying to be too selfish in it. But I love the thing that you recommended there. It feels like a very human approach of just, let's all be real. Let's talk to each other. Let's treat everybody in the room with respect. Let's build trust. And I feel like that's funny coming from somebody that leads an AI company. So I'm wondering, as we get to kind of like the behavior section here, is that the answer? What I was kind of hearing in both of your first two answers there is, if I'm not micromanaging, maybe I can use AI tools and other instruments to do the measurement, the micro management of these small things that maybe we all need to pay attention to. But my job as the human is to be the human leader, to connect with empathy, to understand where they're coming from, and to be curious about what's in it for them, to create that relationship that the AI tool can't do. Is that fair?
It's totally fair. And it's a salient, interesting time to have the discussion, right? Because the world's now becoming aware of generative models and the capacity. And I've been working in generative models for years. And before the compute resources actually were there. Started back in, like, literally in cyber, you start back in machine learning in 2005. I was doing public key cryptography, or well, it's PKI cryptography, effectively. Got into curve cryptography, got into multi-factor authentication pre 9/11. And you better believe that algorithms are involved at a deep level all the way back, right? But that's the ML side of it. It's not the data science side. A lot of people don't realize that, like, there's NLP, NLU, and all these other areas. But now the world's starting to say, wow, these computers can do some things that people can't do, or faster, and so on and so forth. And I think that is the truth. And I think that in many ways, like, when we look at risk, at the foundation of why, what I was trying to do when I built the company was that humans are only capable of processing X amount of variables and considerations as it relates to outlier detection, anomaly detection, and so on and so forth at a certain scale. But if I have enough horsepower and compute resources, and I can do unsupervised learning, and I can create features in unsupervised learning that self-select and start to really hone in and do that from afar, then that extends beyond the capacity of any single human, right? And the reason that I did it is for national security, and that's fundamentally, like, why measured risk exists, is missional minded. Ultimately, I mean, you have your career, you have your corporate life, and then you have your own passions and your purpose. And it just so happens that I wanted to marry those up at about 40. And I had a little bit of leverage and capital to move through that process and be able to achieve it. And that, what I'd say is, I say achieve it, but we're always trying to achieve. It's not like, it's little steps, man. Like, when I talk to my friends that, certain people, like I'm friends with, for instance, I have a wrestling background. I was a wrestler at a young age in Pennsylvania, and where Cale Sanderson is now the head coach at Penn State University. I grew up in that town, and I was wrestling national champions in 8th grade in the Penn State wrestling room. So I've been around advanced human performance my whole life. And then when you get with people that have these skill sets, and it turns out one of my friends is a 3-time national champion wrestler for Penn State, and now he's one of the top people in MMA. Okay. The way he looks at the world is he just actually says that God gave us a gift to achieve our vision, and God gave us the ability to do that. And I give him all the credit. Look, I'm just doing what I actually can. And it's the little steps along the way. It's like the micro steps. It's not the we all kind of have a goal in mind, right? Like it's out here, but what are you doing today? What are you doing right now? What are you doing 10 minutes ago? What were you doing this morning? What are you doing with your kids? What are you doing with your life, your family, all these different pieces of it, your friends? It's a reflection. It's called pattern of life for people that'll watch this. But in many respects, like, and the funny thing is I don't know if you know what chaos theory is or anything like that, but you can find outlier type of people out there. And there's a book called Outliers, Malcolm Gladwell. And
Love that one.
I had my wife read it and she's like, well, that's you, dude. And I'm like, but I was doing some things early. I was working with, at State College High School, I had access to these computers that Penn State was putting to the university, to the school system. So I was doing fractal creation in 7th grade, like fractals and then computer animation. And the next day I would come in and an image would be rasterized, right? We were pushing the limits of 286 and 386 compute resources. And I wasn't even a technologist. I was more interested in the liberal arts side of things and art than I was technology. Tech is just a facilitator really for a vision, if you really look at it.
Yeah.
It's right. So I always thought that technology would facilitate, people's ability to achieve things faster. And you can't create computer animation without a computer.
So let's bring that back to leadership a little bit here and inspiring others, because the question that comes to mind for me is how do we use that as a leader, like this data, to help coach our people and inspire others without beating them up? I'm sure I can tell already you're the kind of personality that, like, you would hate it. As top performers, we love feedback.
Yeah.
We love data, but you would hate it if somebody was like, oh, I noticed on this call, you didn't show your open palm in the first 30 seconds of this interview, right? And we start overthinking everything when we get too much data. So how do you combine kind of the high performance, and I love even what you said about the MMA, in a way that a leadership, we want all the data, we want all the hard work, but we also want humans to be inspired and motivated by that.
So there's a way to factor artificial intelligence. And interestingly enough, I was having a conversation with an investor about this, is that the X factor, let's call it, there's a way that algorithmically can be calculated into a forecasting model, just so you know. Like if you have, let's say you have a team of 50 people and, salespeople, and, there's some X factor aspect that could be contributed into that. Now, I always say it's lumpy business. Okay. Just so you know, I don't forecast it because it's lumpy business. You don't know, right? It's just something could happen. But when I think about the motivation side of it, you're absolutely right. Is that guys like me, we've been around the block. And if you're the kind of person where you're willing to, for instance, let me give you an example. So early days, go back again, I work in straight commission as a mortgage broker back in college. And I did it for 2 years. So I was comfortable living off the land at an early age. And I grew up working on a farm and that kind of stuff. And what you find is in corporate worlds, right, we all have to do what we do. But when you step out of that for a minute, like I've been out of it for years, right? You live off the land anyhow, and you are then a business owner, right? And you are an entrepreneur, you own your own destiny, and you might not know where your next paycheck's coming from, any of that kind of stuff, because you're not living off your base salary. You don't have one, right? So you just decide what needs to happen to make something happen. And it's that thinking. What I'd say is like, imagine yourselves not having a job for almost a decade. And what are you going to do as a sales professional? Because the truth is that, you've been taught all these things from a Sandler, or, there's multiple, right? But Sandler's the best, right? I will say that. And that's not even, I know that. So, but imagine stepping out of a job and somebody wants to go into business with you. And they say, hey, I want to do a business deal with you. I think you're talented as a salesperson. I want to do these types of things with you. And maybe we can build a company, right? And we build a company. And you're going to say, first thing, you're going to talk to your spouse. Your spouse is going to say, well, that sounds like financial suicide and so on and so forth. But the truth of it is that this is how the other part of the world works, is that we build businesses, we create value, and we do it many times on our own dime to start the process, right? You have to have enough trust in your ability and skill set. And what you're trying to do is surround yourself with brilliant people. Because again, you're going back to the corporate mind where you need to have the right team around you to succeed. And I think that at the end of the day, if I just look at it, I've been blessed with the opportunity to really kind of be around really interesting, inspiring people. And I've done things that have, been kind of kindred to my heart. Not that it's like I've been a mentor for the Honor Foundation for years. The Honor Foundation is a special forces area where they do skill bridging. They come out, these are high level operators, and they're looking to get into the private sector and have jobs and things like that in good fields. And so I've been mentoring in that area for quite a while, out of just passion. It's a passion thing. And it's like you like birds of a feather, you like to be around people that have high performing thinking and have a kindness at their heart. Because really what I've found is the further you go, the more love is involved, is the best way to put it. It's not I've been in commit meetings and sales forecasts where I'm going to take this book and I'm going to leave the room right now. Like that thinking, right? But the funny thing is that when you get yourself around leaders that really inspire other people, they do it because they see into people's hearts and their passions, and they help accentuate the potential execution of that passion.
I like that a lot. And Sandler is a sponsor of Operation New Uniform too, by the way, which is a very similar thing of based in Florida, helping soldiers coming out of the military learn sales skills and soft skills and leadership skills to get back into the business world. So check that out. Something that might be aligned with you. Yeah. And I think you're right there. I have one last question about maybe techniques of how we actually go about creating win-win deals and inspiring people to do this. Because I feel like you have a lot of experience. There's probably a lot of places you could go here, but do you have any advice for somebody that's just maybe struggling? They're like, I don't see how get these three partners together.
Yeah, dude. Great question, by the way. And by the way, you guys listen to this, and gals, I'd say that the struggle is a part of what makes this fun, first of all, right? Without the struggle, what's the point? First of all, I'd say that this is, we've all been given a set of skills and opportunities and things like that. So don't ever get down on yourself about, I can't get this to happen, that kind of thing. The truth is, look, it'll happen. Just get yourself around the right people, those types of things, and start to learn. Use active listening skills, use your EIQ. But in terms of at a tactical execution level, so one of the things that I have a background in is what's called attach rate business modeling. So let's say you work for XYZ company and they have a software application or hardware, whatever it may be, and you're looking to grow that scale. There's a book called Platform Scale, but you're looking to grow the scalability of that capability. And you can do the turnover rocks model, which is sell direct. And yes, you can put a number to it and be like, here's 1.2 per head, but there's a predictability in that growth. But exponential growth looks different, okay? Exponential growth looks like when you go and partner up, let's say you're a $50 million software company and you go partner up with a, $4 billion business, and the CEO, you partner with the CEO of that business and you say, well, Tom, how do I get access? Well, just be creative. I mean, there's ways, right? As a salesperson, there's a bunch of ways to kind of influence human behavior and do all kinds of stuff, and which is for a positive outcome, because what you're trying to do is with that partner is say, hey, look, I know you're 4 billion today. What if you're 5 tomorrow, and I can help you do that? And I can help you do that through, I've got this capability here. We might have to pull in a partner over here for this. Systems integrate it in your head and be like, but be the business owner out in front of that discussion. So sit out in front of it. And when you start to create these rooms, I'll call them, then the magic flies. And that CEO of that $4 billion business now sees themselves in a $5 billion business. And you just architected it.
I like that. All right. 3 quick ones, then we'll let you go here. First, these are my cheesy job interview questions. We're talking with Tom Albert, founder and CEO of Measured Risk. You can find them at measuredrisk.com. That's AI for supply chain risk there. And I wanted to get to know you a little bit better here. First question, how do you define success at this point in your career?
I define success by what people do for other people.
I like that.
I don't define it by the traditional unit metrics or economics. I define it by what's in their heart and transmitted through their action with how they help other people, that kind of thing. Yep.
And the opposite question is, was there a biggest failure in your career that you're most proud of, or maybe a big hurdle you had to get over in order to be successful?
Tons. So many. I mean, just really, like, one of the hardest ones was my father died in my hands in 2015, right when I was taking a company through an acquisition. And then I went and built my own. And I'd say that, that shook my world because he was my best bud. And, but time is a great thing. And, I'd say that I've been through enough challenges in life. If you go look up a magazine article called Entrepreneur Magazine, look up Tom Albert, just Google Tom Albert Entrepreneur. You're going to learn about some of those challenges. I've had house fires. I've lost everything. I started from nothing more than once. And I'm comfortable in austere environments with difficult challenges, but it's what makes us, man. Like, that's what makes us. And then all of a sudden you start to see how other people can you see into other people's challenges. You're like, dude, I got you. We're good. You're going to be able to do this. And so that's, there's been a lot of things in my life, but you know what, man, that's what makes the whole story. Yeah.
I think so too. And I think it's interesting that your confidence actually comes from getting over the failures, not from your wins. The wins kind of breed imposter syndrome and stuff, but getting through difficult situations is really what brings true confidence.
That's it.
Last question. You seem like you read a lot and have a lot of books, so this one might be the hardest one of them all. Do you have a favorite quote, motto, or mantra that you try and keep in mind?
I do. I have a couple. One's biblical, lilies in the field, how they don't toil. Meaning irrespective of the life's challenges that you have while you're trying to do the things you pursue in life, see the lilies in the field. And I think it was Luke maybe, but that's a very salient statement about life. Like, don't worry, don't worry, be happy type thinking, certainly. And another one is be yourself. Everybody's taken. Oscar Wilde is my favorite, really.
Yeah. That's a great one for sure. I love that.
Yeah.
All right. We did it. We made it to the end. Again, find Tom Albert at measuredrisk.com. Any other final thoughts or any ways we can help you or you can help us?
No, man. Anything you guys need, anybody listening, anything you need, reach out to me. I'm here to, hopefully be a blessing to other people and be helpful in many ways. And so if I can do something to advance your business or connect you in with different people, whatever it may be, you know how to get me. It's Tom Albert at measuredrisk.com, and LinkedIn. Obviously, you can just hit that as well.
Sounds great, Tom. Thanks for the time and all the insights today. I really appreciate it. And for more information on Sandler, you can just go to Sandler.com. There's a ton of free resources. Subscribe to this podcast wherever you're listening or watching to it right now. You can check out the live versions on YouTube if you want to subscribe to our channel there, Sandler Worldwide. And as always, whatever you are, be a good one. That's what I always say. The How to Succeed podcast brought to you by Sandler Training, the worldwide leader in sales management and customer service training with over 200 locations. More information at Sandler.com. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.